Good morning. Continuing with the laws of Lashon Harah. Friday, I think it was Friday, we discussed the 7 conditions when one is allowed to speak Lashon Harah and how careful one has to be that all those 7 conditions are fulfilled when speaking evil about somebody else. So let's continue where we left off, which is Klal Yud, Seif Tes Vav, 10:15. I think I put the wrong title here. Fix it after. Okay. Ve'ata, ra'achi, איך צר שיקול גדול לזה באיזה אופן לספר העניין, כי באיזה הסיפור הוא עומד בסכנה עצומה של 10 סיפור לשון הרע. אם לא ישמר עצמו בכל הפרטים, וביועסר בפרט הבייז והדלת. He says, see how careful you have to be when you have determined, when you want to speak evil about somebody else, and you've determined that it's allowed, how careful you have to be because of the great danger which exists of speaking Lashon Hara. Because if you're not careful to fulfill all of these conditions, you might have thought that you're permitted to say something, but really it's a sin of Lashon Hara, and we learned at the beginning of this Sefer how many commandments one violates by speaking Lashon Hara. And he says specifically one has to be very careful with condition 2 and condition 4. Condition 2 is that you shouldn't assume right away that when you see someone do something, you assume that it's wrong, but you have to analyze the situation and see, did this person really do something which was incorrect? Maybe at first glance he appears to have done something wrong, but when you analyze what he did, it could be that everything he did was in accordance with the Torah. He has to be careful with that. And he says you also have to be careful with condition number 4, which is that you have to make sure when you tell the story, let's say this person, you figured out he did do something wrong, and you're going to say it over to people for a constructive purpose. You have to make sure that everything you're saying is accurate. You can't mix in any lies or any details which are incorrect. You can't exaggerate. Everything has to be exactly as it happened. You have to be very careful with that. And he says it's one could say that death and life is through the tongue. He says that, again, in this case we're talking about where someone wronged you, and it's one of those situations where you're allowed to tell other people what he did. Refer to the previous classes for what those situations are. But he says that before you speak the evil that this person did to you, you have to know what you're going to say beforehand, and you have to plan what you're going to say. You can't just do it off the cuff, because what will happen is if you just start speaking off the cuff, you're going to get, the anger will overcome you over what this person did, and you'll start exaggerating, and you'll start, the Yetzer Hara will tempt you to speak in a way that you're not allowed to speak and violate these 7 conditions. And while you originally were going to speak evil speech which was permitted, you end up speaking Lashon Hara and violating all kinds of sins. So therefore you have to be extremely careful, exceedingly careful before you speak, to think of how you're going to say it and to make sure that everything that you're going to say is accurate, and that you won't exaggerate at all. And that your intent will be latoelis, your intent will be for a constructive, positive purpose, like we mentioned in Sif 13. Because remember that one of the conditions of toelis is that it has to be, one of the conditions to speak Lashon Hara is it has to be latoelis, and that has to be your mindset. You have to have in mind that the reason you're speaking evil about this person is because there's going to be a constructive purpose. Either he's going to return an item which he stole from you, or he's not going to harm you in the future. But if that's not your intent is that this guy did something bad to me and I just want to get revenge, then even if you have the other 6 conditions, it's total Lashon Hara. So you have to be very careful that our intent has to be pure, and we can't exaggerate it all. And the other conditions. And specifically also, we have to make sure that what this person did was actually something which violated the Torah. Sometimes we just get mad at people because they did something that we don't like, but maybe we were at fault, or maybe they did something that wasn't so great, but it wasn't against the Torah. It doesn't give us license to speak negatively about them. Okay, halacha tes zayin. From everything we've written, nachol liras as godol hatos shemishtabshim b'manei adam tamid. we're able to see from everything we've written so far the great mistakes that people make regarding these halachas. She'im nira la'echad shemedaber lashon hara al chaveiro shelo b'fanav umegana also, if someone hears that someone's speaking lashon hara about him and denigrating him, v'kasher tishalenu lama ata medaber alav lashon hara, why? And someone asks him, why are you speaking lashon hara? Yashiv l'cham mipnei shegam hu diber alai ifnei ploni uploni. Well, I'm speaking lashon hara about Joe because Joe was speaking lashon hara about me in front of these two guys. V'zeh tos gadol. This is a big mistake. Mipnei kamatam, for many reasons. Echad, one. Shemisha siper lechazeh asur min haTorah la'amino mipnei kabalas rechilos u'kamo shekasavna kama pa'amim ve'ich yemuter leilech l'saper alav machmazeh. So one reason is because you're not allowed to believe it. It's rechilos. We're going to learn. Actually, we're very close to finishing the laws of lashon hara, and the next comes the laws of rechilos, which is tail bearing. So someone comes to you and says, Joe was speaking about you. Joe was speaking lashon hara about you. You're not allowed to believe the person that told it to you. So here you are. You're speaking lashon hara about Joe, and what gives you the right to speak lashon hara about Joe? Well, Joe is speaking lashon hara about me. And how do you know that? Someone told me. Well, you're not allowed to believe him. You're not allowed to believe when someone tells you rechilos. Va'od, furthermore, but let's say it's really true that Joe was speaking lashon hara. You know it for sure. You saw it yourself. Like we said in Sif Yud Aleph, even if you know Joe was speaking lashon hara about you, that doesn't give you an excuse to go and speak lashon hara about him. Right? Because one need even you know for sure that there was somebody speaking lashon hara about you. He was speaking evil about you, and you are not allowed to go and speak lashon hara about him. We're only allowed to, even when someone does something wrong to you, you're only allowed to say something negative about him if you have the other conditions, all the 7 conditions which we mentioned in the last class. And it's very exciting. We have we're not going to finish now, but God willing, we have one more halacha left, and we'll be done with the laws of lashon hara. Then we'll move on, God willing, to the second part of the sefer, which is the laws of rechilos, which is tail bearing. That's telling somebody that someone was speaking lashon hara about him or something like that, like the case we just mentioned. And also, if anyone's interested, today we're starting with the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation and Union Hill Congregation. We have they started a program where you could commit for 1 hour a day, at least, to not speak lashon hara and to compliment people, to give 4 compliments to people. And every day, the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation will send an email to people of chizuk, inspiring them to follow the laws of lashon hara. So if you're interested in that, please message me or reach out on comment or send an email. I can give you the email address to connect with them, and hope everybody has a beautiful, cool day.